So, you've just come to the Netherlands and aren't sure what essentials you might need to have to survive here. Let's talk about it. One of the most important things you need to have, especially if you're coming here sometime pretty close to the winter, is a good heavy-duty winter coat. Now, obviously, Zara or H&M can supply those. I have a pretty good one from CNA that sort of doubles as a windproof and a raincoat. Those can be quite helpful, but I do think it's worth it if you have the money to invest in one of those heavier duty, built for the mountains kind of raincoats. It'll really help you once the weather starts to get a bit crispy, because yeah, once it gets cold, you'll freeze. Yeah, obviously, it depends on what your price point is. There's lots of options, but I think that's really one of the first things I would recommend moving here. Another important element also in the wardrobe arena is a really nice, comfortable, soft sweater. I've got a cashmere one, and those are really helpful, especially if you're the type of person like me that gets really itchy from traditional wool. That's really helpful when things get cold, and also can help make a more casual outfit more classy, because if you're here to work, you never know when there's a networking event you can go to, especially also as a student, if you're still exploring building your network, or even as an established professional meeting people, you need something that looks clean or crisp. A nice sweater can go a long way in supporting that image while keeping you very warm, especially if it's wool. It's also really decent is for the summer, a nice running shoe, because you're going to be walking or biking a lot. I personally really like Nike running shoes. I find them quite comfortable and quite lightweight. That's usually sort of my summer uniform. For the winter, I'd get a heavy duty, really strong boot. A lot of my friends like Doc Martens. I find breaking them in to be exhausting. Ted Baker might always have good ones, or just take a look online, find what's comfortable to you at your price point. But having those sort of different types of wardrobe essentials will help you. Oh, it's hot today and I'm gonna move around a lot. Let me wear my quick shoe. Or I need to look more professional today. Let me wear my nice boot. Or it's getting cold, I want to protect my feet with a nice sock and a good boot. That's sort of everything I'm telling you is trying to help you build those essentials that you can always have on and off. And it's always good, especially if you're come from a hotter country like me, having that heavy coat and that boot can always add to your summer wardrobe, because you can wear your summer wardrobe underneath and still look quite well put together. Another element to take into account is the fact that it rains a lot here, so it might be good to invest in some form of good rain pant, like water repellent pants, so that whenever you're biking a lot, you don't walk in soaking wet to your next meeting or to your classroom. I've heard Rains does a pretty good set of those. I personally don't use them, but that's because I don't bike as much because of my condition. But I do think they're a good staple to have. Still within the clothing arena, I really think it's worth the investment to get a made-to-measure suit, especially if you want to work in the more professional arena. If you happen to be a young professional, hopefully you can afford it. But if you happen to be a student, there are a lot more affordable options for you to check out. One of those more affordable options can be Suit Supply. I think it's really a good option for those that are sort of in the mid-ground, and maybe if you're a student, you can get your parents to help you out with a gift from that. Just so if you ever need it, you never know when a more formal business occasion might come up. So it's always good to have. And that suit jacket and those suit pants can also be matched with a lot of casual things to give your outfit a bit of an edge. Obviously, all of these recommendations depend on your budget. A lot of them you can get really decent secondhand. There are also a lot of like clothing swaps and thrift stores for those of you that can't really afford to spend a lot of money on clothes. But I think that with all the recommendations I just mentioned, that should really cover you in the clothing arena. Moving on to the more practical arena, something I like to carry in my bag is one of those multi-purpose tools. You never know when you might need a screwdriver or a knife or a fork. Some of them even come with a little lighter attached and a little light if you need it. You never know when the occasion might call for it. I've had the need to use it multiple times. There's something stuck and I need to cut it off, for example. That's always super helpful. Another element, which is basically your main transportation tool in the Netherlands, is a bike. I know a lot of people buy secondhand bikes, and if that's your only option, do go ahead and get that. But there's also subscription services like Swapfiets. And if you can invest in it, a good bike will be your best friend because the weather can get quite intense. But if you do buy a good one, please, please, please lock your doors, put it in the house, wherever it is. Just don't leave it on the street unattended because people will decide it's theirs and steal it. Moving on a bit into the kitchen arena, what I find super helpful is a nice air fryer. I know a lot of people sell them on one of those exchange Facebook groups if they're moving and can't take one with them, but if you can afford it, obviously buy a good one. It's really a good multi-purpose cooking tool. I know a lot of people cook proteins in it, and it's just overall healthier. And I know it's from friends of mine that have bought it, and we do have it in our house. It is quite intuitive to use, and you can make a lot of really nice dishes with it. So if you're gonna invest in something kitchen-wise that isn't a pot or a pan, that's where I would go. Moving on, okay, this might sound left field from everything I've been saying so far, but moving on into the tech arena, a nice little hard disk will go a long way. If there's anything I've learned from living in the Netherlands, save everything. Scan all your documents, scan all your paperwork, any certificates you receive, any work you've done, Word backups. If you want to do it on the cloud, then invest in a good cloud service like Google Drive or iCloud Drive. But I personally think it's good to have a physical drive on you. Save everything on there, keep it somewhere safe. You never know, it gets hacked, it crashes. Keep it all safe somewhere so that if you lose any of it, things don't go to hell, you know? Another important element, just for the memories, but also for any ideas that might come or any creativity. As a creative person, I always like to have a little notebook on me and a little pen in my bag. You never know when an idea might strike, or you want to keep track of your appointments. I am a very forgetful person, so it's always good whenever someone's talking to you, be ready to jot something down. That's something I've just always found to be very helpful. This one is for those of you who come from sunnier countries and are very used to getting an excess amount of vitamin D. Please have a set of pills on you at all times. I remember being super depressed when I first moved here. And then having a teacher who comes from Asia. I think she was from Thailand, from a very sunny country. And she was just like, carry those pills on you, take them for at least a year. I still take my vitamins every day, and they were helpful to me in sort of boosting my immunity. If that's something that's for you and you feel like that's important, please get some. Something that you'll probably get anyway when you move here, but is important to mention in your essentials, is what is known as an OV chip card. The OV chip card allows you access to all the public transportation systems of the Netherlands. I believe you can stack them up with all kinds of different subscriptions depending on your needs, and it's you either fill them up. A lot of people I know fill them up with 30 euros a month, and that's enough for them. But there are also all kinds of packages based on the areas you go. Maybe because of budget reasons, you live a bit outside the city and you need to commute a lot. So check that out, but that's definitely going to be an essential to have with you. Another element also within the card arena is a Maestro card. You can just get those off of that popular online banking app, Revolut, or any of those other online options, just to hold you off until you have your first Dutch bank account. Because just so you know, credit cards rarely ever work here. Credit cards are not the accepted standard, and internationally, I know at least for me and where I come from, and credit cards are the name of the game. So it was pretty much a shock for me when I couldn't use my credit card everywhere. So make sure you've got a Maestro card on you somewhere with some cash on it, just to get you on your feet when you first get here. Maybe not as physical of a thing, but something very important. A lot of certifications are important here in the Netherlands, so it might be worth investing in a certificate on digital storytelling, for example, or growth marketing, SEO. One of those really helpful in-demand digital skills to help give you an edge when especially if you're coming here to look for a job. But even as a student, it can help you land your first internship. So yeah, I think those are all interesting elements for you to consider, whether it be the fashion parts or the more practical elements, but also make sure to have a grasp of your knowledge. Something else that I love to have is a really good book, just so you never know when you're stuck in a train somewhere or something gets busy. Something to entertain yourself that isn't constantly looking at my screen, because both as a professional or someone who's here as a student, you're probably going to be using screens a lot, whether it's your tablet or your computer. So it's just good to get that break, and it might be worth it even to install one of those timing apps. And yeah, if you like this type of content about practical things to bring with you or courses, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'm happy to make more. And if you're curious about Dutch culture, I do have quite a few videos on Dutch culture shocks, so it might be worth exploring. And don't hesitate to click subscribe if you like this video, please, so that we can appease the YouTube gods and I can really keep making things that are meaningful for you guys.